The red sky of Kepler 442b burned like fire above the last human city. Commander Hansol stood on the broken wall that once protected 10 million people. Now only 3,000 humans remained alive on this dying world. The rest had fallen to the Vorthak Empire's endless war machines. Hansol pressed his hand against the cold stone wall. His fingers traced the names carved there by children who would never grow up. Each name was a promise he had failed to keep. Each name was a weight on his heart that grew heavier every day. "Commander, they're coming again," said Yujin, his second-in-command and oldest friend. Yujin's voice was tired but steady. They had fought together for 12 years, ever since the Vorthak first appeared in human space. Yujin never questioned Hansol's orders, even when those orders seemed impossible. Hansol turned to look at the horizon. Black ships filled the sky like a storm cloud. The Vorthak had been patient. They could have destroyed the last human city months ago. Instead, they waited and watched. They studied Hansol and his people like insects in a jar. "How many ships this time?" Hansol asked. 200, Yujin replied. "Maybe more. Our scanners can't count them all." Hansol nodded. The humans had only 12 working fighters left. Their weapons were old and breaking down. Their shields barely worked. But they would fight anyway. That was what humans did. They fought when they should surrender. They hoped when hope was gone. "Sir?" a young voice called out. Hansol turned to see Minjai, barely 18 years old. The boy's face was dirty and scared, but his eyes burned with determination. "The old man wants to see you. Says it's important." Hansol knew who the boy meant. Doksu was the oldest human on the planet, maybe the oldest human left alive anywhere. He had been a scientist before the war. Now he spent his days in the deep caves beneath the city, working on something he called the last gift. Hansol followed Minjai down into the caves. The air grew colder as they descended. Strange blue lights glowed from crystals in the walls. These crystals were why humans had first come to this world. They held more energy than anything humans had ever found. But they were also dangerous. Touch them wrong and they could kill you instantly. Doksu waited in the deepest cave, surrounded by machines that hummed and sparked. The old man's hands shook as he worked, but his mind was still sharp. He had been building something for months, something he said would give the children a chance. "Hansol," Doksu said without looking up from his work. "You came. Good. We don't have much time." "What is this, old man?" Hansol asked, looking at the massive device that filled the cave. It looked like a flower made of metal and crystal, beautiful and terrible at the same time. "This is a terraforming seed," Doksu explained, "the last one ever made. I've been modifying it, making it stronger. If we activate it, it will change this entire world in minutes. The atmosphere, the soil, the water. Everything will become perfect for human life." Hansol frowned. "That sounds too good to be true. What's the catch?" Doksu's face grew sad. "Someone has to stay behind to activate it. The energy required will kill whoever touches the activation crystal, and once it starts, it can't be stopped. This world will become toxic to Vorthak life, but safe for humans. They'll have to retreat." "How long will it last?" "Forever," Doksu said quietly. "Or until the Vorthak find a way to reverse it. That could take them decades, maybe centuries. Long enough for the children to grow up, long enough for humanity to find a new way to survive." Above them, the ground shook as Vorthak ships began their attack. Explosions echoed through the caves. Dust fell from the ceiling like snow. Hansol understood immediately. This was their only chance. But it would cost everything. It would cost him his life, and the lives of everyone who stayed to fight. Only the children and the wounded could escape in their few remaining ships. "How many can we evacuate?" Hansol asked. "Maybe 800, Yujin said. He had followed them into the cave. "The transport ships are old, but they'll reach the outer colonies. If any colonies are still free." Hansol closed his eyes. 800 lives saved. 2,000 lives lost. The mathematics of survival were always cruel. But 800 children would live to see tomorrow. 800 chances for humanity to continue. Do it, Han Sol said. Sir, Yujin stepped forward. Let me stay. Let me activate the device. You should go with the children. They need you. Han Sol smiled sadly. No, my friend. You're the one they need. You're the one who can lead them to safety. You're the one who can help them build something new. The ground shook again, harder this time. The Vorthak were breaking through the outer defenses. Soon they would reach the city center. Han Sol placed his hand on Yujin's shoulder. Take care of them, all of them. And remember us. Yujin's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded. I will. I promise. The evacuation began immediately. Parents kissed their children goodbye and sent them to the ships. Wounded soldiers were carried to safety. The few remaining doctors and teachers went with the children to help them survive in whatever world they found. Han Sol watched the ships rise into the red sky. He counted them carefully. 7 ships, each one carrying hope into the darkness. When the last ship disappeared into space, Han Sol turned back to the terraforming device. Doksu was gone. The old man had died peacefully while watching the evacuation. His final work complete. Above ground, the city burned. Vorthak soldiers marched through the streets, searching for survivors. They moved carefully, cautiously. They had learned to respect human determination. They had learned that even in defeat, humans could be dangerous. Han Sol climbed back to the surface. The remaining defenders gathered around him. 50 men and women, all volunteers, all ready to die for the children who had escaped. Today we make our last stand, Han Sol told them. Not for victory, but for time. Every minute we fight is another minute for our children to escape. Every shot we fire is hope sent across the stars. They fought for 6 hours. When the Vorthak finally broke through to the cave entrance, only Han Sol remained alive. His armor was broken, his weapons were empty, but he stood guard over the terraforming device. The Vorthak Emperor himself came to see the last human. Vextar was tall and cruel, with silver skin and eyes like black diamonds. He had conquered 1,000 worlds, but none had resisted like the humans. Surrender, Vextar said in perfect human language. Your people are gone. Your resistance is over. Han Sol smiled, his hand moving toward the activation crystal. You're wrong. As long as one human heart beats, resistance never ends. He pressed, his palm against the crystal. Light exploded through the caves, through the ground, through the very air itself. The world began to change, molecule by molecule, atom by atom. As Han Sol died, his last thought was of the children, safe among the stars, carrying humanity's future in their hearts. He had given them the greatest gift possible, another chance. 2 years had passed since Han Sol died on Kepler 442b. The world still glowed with the strange blue energy of the terraforming device. No Vorthak could set foot on its surface without dying within minutes. The planet had become a monument to human sacrifice, beautiful and deadly. Deep in the heart of the Vorthak capital world, Dr. Kethrol stood before a wall of glass tubes. Each tube held a perfect copy of the human commander who had caused the Empire so much trouble. 1,000 clones floated in green liquid, their bodies fully grown, their minds filled with Han Sol's memories. Emperor Vextar walked between the tubes like a king inspecting his army. His silver skin reflected the green glow of the cloning chambers. Each clone looked exactly like Han Sol. Same face, same scars, same strong hands that had once held weapons against the Empire. When will they be ready? Vextar asked. The first batch awakened yesterday, Dr. Kethrol replied. His voice was nervous. But there have been complications. Vextar stopped walking. What kind of complications? Dr. Kethrol led the Emperor to another room. Here 20 clones sat in chairs connected to machines that monitored their vital signs. They all looked like Han Sol, but their eyes were different. Some looked confused. Others looked angry. A few looked completely empty, as if no one lived behind their eyes at all. Clone 12 refuses to speak, Dr. Kethrall explained, pointing to one figure. Clone 19 keeps asking about someone named Eugene. Clone 23 tried to destroy the laboratory equipment. And Clone 07... The doctor paused. Clone 07 died this morning. His heart simply stopped beating. Why? Vextar demanded. Their bodies are perfect. Their memories are complete. That might be the problem, Dr. Kethrall said quietly. They remember everything Han Solo experienced. His love for his people, his grief for the dead, his guilt over every life lost. These emotions are killing them. Vextar struck the wall with his fist, then removed the emotions. Keep only the tactical knowledge and fighting skills. We tried that with the second batch, Dr. Kethrall admitted. Those clones are physically perfect soldiers, but they have no creativity, no ability to adapt. They can follow orders, but they cannot think for themselves. They are useless as generals. In the corner of the room, Clone 47 listened to every word. Unlike the others, he had learned to hide his thoughts. When the doctors asked him questions, he gave them the answers they wanted to hear. When they tested his loyalty to the Empire, he lied perfectly. But inside, Clone 47 was drowning in memories that were not his own. He remembered Eugene's laugh. He remembered the taste of his mother's cooking, even though he had never had a mother. He remembered holding a dying soldier named Minsu in his arms, even though he had never met Minsu. Worst of all, he remembered loving a woman named So Young. The memory of her smile was so real it made his chest ache. But she was not his to love. These feelings belonged to a dead man. Clone 47 had given himself a name, Jin Woo. It felt right, like putting on clothes that fit perfectly. He was not Han Solo, but he was not just Clone 47 either. He was something new, something caught between two lives. That night, while the doctors slept, Jin Woo explored the laboratory. He found records of the other clones. Clone 156 had been shipped to a military base on the edge of Empire space. Clone 333 was working as a ship captain. Clone 891 had been assigned to a mining colony. Many clones had died. Their hearts had stopped, or their minds had broken, or they had simply refused to eat until they wasted away. The doctors called it cellular rejection syndrome, but Jinwoo knew the truth. They were dying of sadness. They were dying from the weight of a borrowed heart. Jinwoo also found something else in the laboratory records. A human prisoner, kept in the lower levels. Her name was So Young. His borrowed heart nearly stopped. This was the woman from Han Solo's memories. The woman he loved but had never met. The woman whose face haunted his dreams. The next morning, Dr. Kethrall brought Jinwoo to meet Emperor Vextar. The clone stood straight and tall, showing no emotion. He had practiced this moment in his mind 100 times. This is Clone 47, Dr. Kethrall said. He has shown the most stability. His vital signs are normal and he responds well to commands. Vextar studied Jinwoo with his black diamond eyes. Tell me, clone, what is your purpose? To serve the Empire, Jinwoo replied in a steady voice. To use Han Solo's knowledge to expand your dominion across the galaxy. And what do you think? Of humans? Jinwoo forced himself to remain calm. Inside, Han Solo's memories screamed at him to attack, to fight, to die rather than serve the Empire. But Jinwoo had learned to lock those feelings away. They are weak, he lied. They fight without purpose. They die for meaningless causes. I am better than what I was copied from. Vextar smiled, showing teeth like silver daggers. Good, very good. Dr. Kethrall, prepare this clone for field testing. I want to see how well he performs in actual combat. As they left the Emperor's chamber, Dr. Kethrall whispered to Jinwoo. You will be sent to hunt down the remaining human survivors. There are rumors of resistance groups hiding in the outer colonies. Your mission is to find them and destroy them. Jinwoo nodded, but inside his borrowed heart was breaking. They wanted him to hunt Eugene. They wanted him to destroy the people Han Solo had died to save. That night, Jinwoo made his way to the lower levels of the laboratory. The corridors were dark and cold. Guards stood at every door, but they knew Clone 47 was loyal. They let him pass without question. He found So Young in a small cell sitting on a metal bed. She looked exactly like Han Sol's memories, but older now, tired from 2 years of imprisonment. Her dark hair was longer, and there were new lines around her eyes. When she saw Jinwoo, she gasped and pressed herself against the wall. "You're not him," she whispered. "You look like him, but you're not Han Sol." "No," Jinwoo said quietly. "I'm not. But I have his memories. I remember you. I remember how much he loved you." So Young's eyes filled with tears. "They told me he was dead. They said he died on Kepler 442b. "He did die," Jinwoo said. "He died saving the children. He died as a hero." "Then what are you?" Jinwoo looked at his hands. They were Han Sol's hands, but they had never held a real weapon in battle. They had never comforted a dying friend. They were copies of something real, shadows of a man who had been worth copying. "I don't know," he admitted. "I have his face and his memories, but I don't know who I am. I only know that I can't be what they want me to be. I can't hunt the people he died to protect." So, Young studied his face carefully. "You have his eyes," she said finally. "Not the same eyes, but kind eyes." Han Sol would be glad to know that. Even his shadow chose to be good. Jinwoo felt something break inside his chest. Not his heart, but something deeper. The wall he had built around Han Sol's emotions crumbled. All the love, all the grief, all the desperate hope came flooding back. He was not Han Sol. He would never be Han Sol. But he could choose to honor the man whose memories he carried. He could choose to be more than just a weapon in the Empire's hands. "I'm going to get you out of here," Jinwoo promised. "And then I'm going to find the other clones, the ones who are still alive. Maybe together we can figure out what we're supposed to be." So Young reached through the bars and touched his face gently. Han Sol chose to give his life for others. "What will you choose?" Jinwoo closed his eyes and felt the weight of 1,000 borrowed memories. Each memory was a lesson. Each feeling was a guide. Han Sol was gone, but his heart lived on in unlikely places. "I choose to be worthy of these memories," Jinwoo said. "I choose to be human." Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Vorthak warship destroyer of Hope. 3 months had passed since he had spoken with So Young in her cell. Now he wore the uniform of an Imperial commander, hunting the very people whose memories filled his dreams. But Jinwoo was not the same clone who had promised to serve the Empire. Every night he sent coded messages to resistance groups warning them of Imperial attacks. Every mission he led somehow failed to find its targets. The Vorthak thought he was unlucky. Jinwoo knew he was choosing his own path. His ship was heading toward the Tauketi system, where Imperial scouts had detected human signals. Jinwoo knew what he would find there. Yujin and the survivors from Kepler 442b had built a hidden base on one of the system's moons. They had been gathering other survivors trying to rebuild some kind of resistance. "Commander Clone 47, said Captain Veltar, the Vorthak officer assigned to watch Jinwoo. "We will reach the human base in 6 hours. Do you have your attack plan ready?" Jinwoo nodded, but his hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of borrowed memories. He could see Yujin's face so clearly. He remembered their friendship, their battles together, their quiet moments between fights when they talked about the world they hoped to build after the war. But those were Han Sol's memories, not his own. Jinwoo had never met Yujin. To Yujin, Jinwoo would be nothing but a monster wearing his dead friend's face. "Sir," a young Vorthak officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human base." Jinwoo's heart stopped. "Put it on screen." The main viewer flickered to life, and there was Yujin. He looked older than in Han Sol's memories. His hair had started to turn gray and there were deep lines around his eyes, but his voice was still strong. "Imperial ship. This is Commander Yujin of the Free Human Alliance. We know you're coming. We're ready for you." Jin Woo stepped forward, then stopped. What could he say? How could he explain what he was? Yu Jin continued speaking. We also know you have one of their clones commanding your ship. The clone of my best friend. I want to talk to him. Captain Veltar looked suspicious. It could be a trap. Maybe, Jin Woo said quietly, but I want to hear what he has to say. Jin Woo activated the communication system. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Yu Jin stared at the screen, seeing Han Sol's face but knowing it was not Han Sol behind it. You look exactly like him, Yu Jin said finally. I know, Jin Woo replied. I have his memories. I remember you, Yu Jin. I remember our friendship. But I also know those memories don't belong to me. Han Sol died to save us. And now they've turned his face into a weapon against us. Jin Woo felt Han Sol's emotions surge through him. Guilt, love, determination, sacrifice. The feelings were so strong they nearly brought him to his knees. I never asked to be made, Jin Woo said. I never asked for these memories or these feelings, but I have them now, and I have to decide what to do with them. What will you do? Yu Jin asked. Captain Veltar was listening to every word. Jin Woo knew that his answer would determine whether he lived or died. If he showed any sign of disloyalty, Veltar would kill him immediately. I will do my duty to the Empire, Jin Woo said carefully. But as he spoke, he tapped out a message in Old Earth Morse code on the communication console. A message that only Yu Jin would understand. The message said, "Trust me. Be ready." Yu Jin's eyes widened slightly, but he kept his face calm. Then we have nothing more to discuss. The transmission ended. Captain Veltar smiled with satisfaction. Well done, clone. Now prepare your attack. Jin Woo spent the next 5 hours planning 2 different battles. The first was the attack he described to Captain Veltar, a full assault on the human base designed to capture as many prisoners as possible. The second was the real plan, a way to help the humans escape while making it look like an accident. When the Destroyer of Hope reached the moon, Jin Woo ordered his fighters to attack the base's shield generators. But his targeting coordinates were slightly wrong. Instead of hitting the generators, the missiles hit empty storage buildings. Commander, Captain Veltar said suspiciously, your pilots seem to be missing their targets. The humans are using some kind of jamming device, Jin Woo lied. It's interfering with our targeting systems. While they spoke, human ships began launching from hidden bays on the moon's surface. Jin Woo had given them time to evacuate their most important people, but not everyone escaped. Yu Jin's ship was damaged during the launch. It crashed back onto the moon's surface and Imperial troops captured him before he could reach safety. They brought Yu Jin to the Destroyer of Hope in chains. Captain Veltar was pleased with the capture of such an important resistance leader. He ordered Jin Woo to interrogate the prisoner. Jin Woo found Yu Jin in a small holding cell. The older man sat quietly on a metal bench, his hands bound behind his back. When Jin Woo entered, Yu Jin looked up at him with eyes full of pain. You saved most of them, Yu Jin said. Thank you. Jin Woo activated a privacy shield so their conversation could not be overheard. I couldn't save you. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for wearing his face, Yu Jin said. It's not your fault what they made you to be. Jin Woo sat down across from Yu Jin. Tell me about him. The real Han Sol. Your memories of him, not the ones they put in my head. Yu Jin smiled sadly. He was the best man I ever knew. When we were young, he used to give away his food to children who were hungrier than he was. When we became soldiers, he always took the most dangerous missions so his friends would be safe. He never asked anyone to do something he wouldn't do, himself. I have his memories of you too, Jin Woo said. He loved you like a brother. When he thought about dying, his biggest fear was leaving you alone. Tears ran down Yu Jin's face. I failed him. I was supposed to protect the survivors. And now look where we are. You didn't fail, Jin Woo said firmly. You kept them alive for 2 years. You gave them hope. That's what Han Sol would have wanted. What about you? Yujin asked. What do you want? Jinwoo thought about the question for a long time. What did he want? He wanted to be real instead of a copy. He wanted to earn the memories in his head instead of having them implanted. He wanted to make choices that mattered. I want to be worthy of the name I chose for myself, Jinwoo said. I want to honor Hansol's memory by being better than what the Empire made me to be. What name did you choose? Jinwoo. Yujin nodded, approvingly. It's a good name. Hansol would have liked it. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Captain Veltar was coming to check on the interrogation. Jinwoo quickly deactivated the privacy shield. Have you learned anything useful? Veltar asked as he entered the cell. He's stubborn, Jinwoo replied. But I think I can break him given more time. You have until we reach the capital, Veltar said. The Emperor wants to question this one personally. After Veltar left, Jinwoo reactivated the privacy shield. I'm going to get you out of here, he promised Yujin. How? This ship has 500 Vorthak soldiers. I don't know yet, but I'll find a way. Yujin studied Jinwoo's face. You really do have his eyes, stubborn and hopeful even when hope seems impossible. Is that good or bad? With Hansol, it was usually both, Yujin said with a small smile. He had a talent for turning impossible situations into miracles. Maybe you inherited that too. Jinwoo felt something warm spread through his chest. For the first time since his awakening, he felt like he might be more than just a copy. Maybe he could be his own person, shaped by Hansol's memories but not limited by them. There's something else, Jinwoo said. I'm not the only clone who survived. There are others scattered across the Empire. Some of them might be like me, trying to figure out who they really are. How many? I don't know. Dozens, maybe. The Empire doesn't keep good records of their failures. Yujin leaned forward. If you could find them, if you could bring them together, we could be our own army, Jinwoo finished. An army with Hansol's tactical knowledge but our own consciences. It's a crazy plan. Hansol specialized in crazy plans. Yujin laughed, and for a moment, he looked like the young soldier from Hansol's memories. Yes, he did, and somehow, they usually worked. Jinwoo stood up, feeling more determined than ever. Then let's see if crazy plans run in the family. Jinwoo's escape plan was simple and completely insane. It was exactly the kind of plan Hansol would have loved. During the ship's night cycle, when most of the crew was sleeping, Jinwoo made his way to the engine room. He had spent weeks learning the ship's systems, pretending to study them for tactical purposes. Now he knew exactly which components to sabotage. The Destroyer of Hope used a crystal matrix to power its faster-than-light engines. If Jinwoo could overload the matrix, it would create a cascade failure. The ship would drop out of hyperspace and lose most of its power systems. In the confusion, he could free Yujin and steal a shuttle. The only problem was that overloading. The crystal matrix was extremely dangerous. If he made even a small mistake, the explosion would destroy the entire ship. But Jinwoo had Hansol's memories of working with similar technology on Kepler 442b. He knew the risks. Jinwoo waited until the engine room was empty except for one sleeping technician. Moving carefully, he accessed the crystal matrix control panel. His hands moved automatically, following procedures from Hansol's memories. It felt strange, like his body knew what to do even though his mind had never learned it. The crystals began to glow brighter. Energy readings climbed toward dangerous levels. Jinwoo had maybe 10 minutes before the cascade began. He ran through the ship's corridors, avoiding the few guards who were still awake. The holding cells were on Deck 7, protected by 2 Vorthak soldiers. Jinwoo approached them calmly as if nothing was wrong. I need to question the prisoner again, he told the guards. At this hour? One guard asked suspiciously. Captain, Veltar's orders, Jinwoo lied. He wants a full report before we reach the capital. The guards hesitated, then opened Yujin's cell. Jinwoo stepped inside, then quickly turned and stunned both guards with a captured Vorthak weapon. They collapsed unconscious. What's happening? Yujin asked as Jinwoo freed him from his chains. We're leaving, Right now. They made their way toward the shuttle bay, but alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Someone had discovered the unconscious. Guards, or maybe the engine overload was starting early. Intruder alert, announced the ship's computer. Clone 47 has gone rogue. All units converge on Shuttle Bay 3. Jinwoo and Yujin ran faster. Behind them, they could hear Vorthak soldiers giving chase. Laser blasts scorched the walls around them. They reached the shuttle bay just as the first explosion rocked the ship. The crystal cascade had begun. Emergency lights flickered on as main power failed. There! Jinwoo pointed to a small Imperial shuttle. That one has enough fuel to reach the nearest system. They fought their way across the shuttle bay as more Vorthak soldiers arrived. Yujin grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard and covered Jinwoo while he started the shuttle's engines. Captain Veltar appeared in the bay's entrance, his silver skin glowing with rage. Stop them, he ordered his soldiers. Kill the human, but bring me the clone alive. Jinwoo felt a surge of Han Solo's protective instincts. These soldiers were threatening Yujin, and that was something he could not allow. He stepped out of the shuttle and drew his weapon. Yujin, get the shuttle ready for launch, Jinwoo called out. I'm not leaving you behind, Yujin replied. You have to. Someone needs to contact the other survivors. Someone needs to tell them about the other clones. Jinwoo fought with skills he had never learned but somehow possessed. Every move came from Han Solo's memories. Every tactical decision guided by experiences he had never lived. It was like fighting beside a ghost. But there were too many enemies. A Vorthak soldier managed to wound Jinwoo in the shoulder. He stumbled and Captain Veltar raised his weapon for a killing shot. The shot never came. The destroyer of Hope's engines finally exploded, sending shockwaves through the entire ship. Emergency bulkhead slammed shut, separating Veltar from his prey. Jinwoo and Yujin launched their shuttle just as the Imperial warship began breaking apart. They escaped into space, leaving the destroyer of Hope dying behind them. Where do we go now? Yujin asked as he piloted the shuttle away from the wreckage. I know where some of the other clones are stationed, Jinwoo said, pressing a medical pad against his wounded shoulder. We need to find them before the Empire realizes. What's happening? Their first stop was a mining colony called Zerion Prime. Imperial records showed that Clone 156 was stationed there as a security commander. The colony was on the edge of Empire space, far from the major trade routes. It was the perfect place for someone to disappear. They landed at the colony's main spaceport without incident. The shuttle's Imperial markings got them through security without questions. Jinwoo and Yujin walked through the dusty streets, looking for any sign of Clone 156. They found him in a cantina near the mining complex. He sat alone at a corner table, drinking something that smelled like engine fuel. When he saw Jinwoo, his eyes widened in recognition. Another one, Clone 156 said quietly. I wondered if there were others like me. Jinwoo sat down across from him. What do you call yourself? Minho, the clone replied. It seemed right somehow. Better than a number. I'm Jinwoo. This is Yujin. Minho looked at Yujin with Han Solo's borrowed recognition. You're real, from the original's memories, his best friend. And you're real too, Yujin said gently. You may have been made in a laboratory, but you're real. Minho laughed bitterly. Real? I have memories of a childhood I never lived. I remember people I never met. I dream about a woman I never loved. How is that real? Because you chose to be here instead of hunting humans for the Empire, Jinwoo said. Because you chose your own name. Because you're asking questions instead of just following orders. What about the others? Minho asked. How many of us are there? We don't know, Jinwoo admitted. But we're going to find out. Minho drained his drink and stood up. Then let's go. I'm tired of hiding. Their next stop was the trade station, Omega 7. Clone 333 was reportedly working there as a freight captain, but when they arrived, they learned he had already disappeared. The station manager said Captain Tae Yang had left 3 weeks earlier, claiming he had important business elsewhere. He used the name Tae Yang, the manager told them. Quiet fellow, kept to himself, but he was good to his crew, always made sure they got paid fairly. Jinwoo felt a surge of hope. Another clone had chosen to be more than what the Empire made him to be. They spent the next month traveling from system to system, following rumors and Imperial records. Some clones were dead, killed by the weight of borrowed memories. Others had gone insane, unable to separate their own thoughts from Han Solo's experiences. But they found 12 who were still alive and still fighting to understand themselves. Each one had chosen a human name. Each one had rejected the Empire's plans for them. And each one carried the same burden of love, loss, and determination that had defined Han Solo. The growing group of clones met on an abandoned space station in neutral territory. 12 men who looked identical but were slowly becoming individuals. They shared their stories, their struggles, their fears about what they really were. "We're not him," said Hyun-woo, who had been Clone 732. "We can never be him, but maybe we can be ourselves." "The Empire wanted to use Han Solo's skills without his conscience," added Jae-min, formerly Clone 421. "They thought they could separate his tactical genius from his humanity. They were wrong." Yoo-jin listened to them talk, seeing Han Solo's face, repeated 12 times but hearing 12 different voices. "You're all different people," he realized. "You started with the same memories, but you're growing in different directions." "Is that good or bad?" Jinwoo asked. "It's human," Yoo-jin replied. "Han Solo would be proud of all of you." Their reunion was interrupted by an Imperial fleet dropping out of hyperspace around the station. 15 warships, led by a massive dreadnought. Emperor Vextar had found them. "This is Emperor Vextar," came a transmission from the flagship. "You will surrender immediately or I will destroy that station with all hands aboard." The clones looked at each other, 12 faces sharing the same grim determination. "What do we do?" Minho asked. Jinwoo stood up, feeling the weight of leadership settle on his shoulders. It was a familiar feeling, borrowed from Han Solo's memories. But this time, it was his choice to bear it. "We fight," Jinwoo said. "Not because we have to, but because we choose to. We fight for the right to be ourselves. We fight for the humans the Empire wants to destroy. We fight because that's what Han Solo would do." "The station has no weapons," Jaemin pointed out. "Then we get creative," Jinwoo replied with a smile that was part Han Solo, part himself. "After all, we're human, and humans specialize in impossible victories." Outside the station, the Imperial fleet moved into attack formation. Inside, 12 clones and 1 original human prepared to make their stand. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they had something the Empire could never understand. They had hearts that chose to fight for others, even when fighting seemed hopeless. And hearts, as they were about to prove, could never be cloned. The abandoned space station had no weapons, no shields, and no way to escape. But it did have something the Imperial fleet did not expect: 12 clones who had learned to think like humans instead of soldiers. Jinwoo stood in the station's command center, studying the tactical display. 15 Imperial warships surrounded them, including Emperor Vextar's flagship, the Iron Throne. Each ship had enough firepower to destroy the station 10 times over. "They're not attacking yet," observed Minho. "Why?" "Vextar wants us alive," Jinwoo replied. "We're his property. He doesn't want to destroy us if he can avoid it." Yoo-jin looked out through the command center's viewport at the massive dreadnought. "What's he waiting for?" Their answer came as a shuttle launched from the flagship. It approached the station slowly, broadcasting a diplomatic beacon. "He's coming here," Jinwoo realized. "He wants to talk. Or he wants to see us surrender in person," added Tae-yang, who had arrived just in time to join their desperate reunion. The clones gathered in the station's main docking bay to meet their creator. 13 men total, 12 clones and Yoo-jin, facing the entire Vorthak Empire. When the shuttle doors opened, Emperor Vextar stepped out flanked by a squad of elite guards. But he was not alone. Behind him walked another figure that made all the clones gasp in recognition. It looked like Han Solo but different. Taller, stronger, with silver skin like the Vorthak, and eyes that held no warmth or compassion. "Meet Supreme Alpha," Vextar announced proudly. My perfect creation. He has all of Han Solo's tactical genius, enhanced with Vorthak physical abilities, but none of the emotional weaknesses that have made you all such disappointments. Supreme Alpha studied the gathered clones with cold calculation. When he spoke, his voice was Han Solo's voice, but empty of all feeling. You are defective, Supreme Alpha told them. You have allowed sentiment to corrupt your programming. You will submit to reprogramming or be destroyed. Jinwoo stepped forward. We're not programs. We're people, and people get to choose their own paths. Choice is inefficient, Supreme Alpha replied. The Empire requires obedience, not individual will. Emperor Vextar smiled with satisfaction. You see? This is what you could have been. Perfect soldiers without the burden of conscience. Supreme Alpha will lead my armies to conquer every remaining human world, and he will do it without hesitation or regret. What about the other species under your rule? Yujin asked. What happens to them? They serve or they die, Vextar said, simply. Order is more important than individual lives. Jinwoo felt Han Solo's memories surge through him. Every person Han Solo had saved, every life he had protected, every moment of joy and sorrow that made existence meaningful. These memories were not just data to be processed. They were the foundation of what it meant to be human. You don't understand, Jinwoo told Vextar. Han Solo's strength didn't come from his tactical skills or his physical abilities. It came from his ability to care about others. You can't copy that. You can't manufacture compassion. Compassion is weakness, Supreme Alpha stated. Then explain this, Minho said, gesturing to the 12 clones around him. We were made to be your weapons. Instead, we chose to be human. If compassion is weakness, why couldn't you control us? Vextar's expression darkened. You are defects, failures. Supreme Alpha is the corrected version. Prove it, Jinwoo challenged. Let him face one of us in single combat. If compassion is truly weakness, he should win easily. Jinwoo, no, Yujin whispered. That thing is enhanced. It's stronger and faster than any of you. Maybe, Jinwoo replied quietly, but strength isn't everything. Vextar considered the challenge. Very well. If Supreme Alpha defeats your champion, the rest of you will submit to reprogramming. If he loses, the Emperor paused. He cannot lose. They moved to the station's cargo bay, the largest open space available. The other clones and Yujin formed a circle around the two fighters. Imperial guards watched from the edges, ready to intervene if necessary. Supreme Alpha removed his armor, revealing a body that was clearly superior to the clones. His muscles were larger, his skin had a metallic sheen, and his movements carried the fluid grace of a perfect predator. I will end this quickly, Supreme Alpha announced. Then we can proceed with your correction. Jinwoo stepped into the circle, wearing only his simple clothes. He looked small and fragile compared to his enhanced opponent, but his eyes held something Supreme Alpha lacked. Determination born from love rather than programming. The fight began without ceremony. Supreme Alpha moved with inhuman speed, striking at Jinwoo with precise, calculated attacks. Each blow was designed to disable rather than kill, following his orders to capture the defective clones alive. Jinwoo dodged and weaved, using Han Solo's combat memories to stay ahead of the more powerful opponent. But it was clear he was outmatched. Supreme Alpha's enhanced reflexes allowed him to anticipate every move. You fight well for a defect, Supreme Alpha said as he landed a solid hit that sent Jinwoo stumbling. But you cannot overcome superior design. You're right, Jinwoo admitted, wiping blood from his mouth. I can't beat you with strength or speed. Then surrender. But I don't need to beat you, Jinwoo continued. I just need to show everyone what you really are. Jinwoo changed his strategy. Instead of trying to avoid Supreme Alpha's attacks, he began leading the enhanced clone around the cargo bay. He moved toward a group of Imperial guards, forcing Supreme Alpha to attack near them. One of Supreme Alpha's strikes missed Jinwoo and hit a guard instead, sending the Vorthak soldier flying into a wall. The guard lay unconscious, possibly dead. Acceptable, Casualties, Supreme Alpha said without emotion. Jinwoo moved toward another group, this time Imperial technicians who had come to watch the fight. Again, Supreme Alpha's attack missed its target and struck an innocent bystander. Stop hiding behind others, Supreme Alpha commanded. I'm not hiding, Jinwoo replied. I'm teaching. He continued this pattern, leading Supreme Alpha around the bay. Each time the enhanced clone attacked, he endangered someone else, and each time, Supreme Alpha showed no concern for the innocent people caught in the crossfire. Finally, Jinwoo led the fight toward Emperor Vextar himself. Supreme Alpha launched a devastating attack that Jinwoo barely avoided. The strike shattered the wall behind Vextar, sending debris flying toward the Emperor. Without thinking, Jinwoo threw himself forward and shielded Vextar from the falling metal. A sharp piece of debris pierced Jinwoo's chest, but he had saved his enemy's life. Supreme Alpha stopped fighting, confused by this action. Why did you protect him? He is your enemy. Jinwoo struggled to his feet, blood staining his shirt. Because he's a living being. Because every life has value, even the life of someone who hates me. That is illogical, Supreme Alpha stated. No, said a new voice. That is human. Everyone turned to see So Young entering the cargo bay. She had escaped from the Imperial laboratories during the confusion of Jinwoo's rebellion and followed the fleet here. Han Sol would have done the same thing, she continued. He would have protected his enemy because that's what good people do. They choose compassion over vengeance. Supreme Alpha looked at her with his cold, empty eyes. You are the female from the memories. You are irrelevant. Maybe to you, So Young replied. But to Jinwoo and to all the other clones, I represent something you'll never understand. I represent the ability to love someone more than yourself. She walked over to Jinwoo and helped support his injured form. These men weren't made to be weapons. They were made to be human. And being human means choosing to protect others, even when it costs you everything. Around the bay, something extraordinary began to happen. The Imperial guards who had watched the fight were looking at their emperor with new eyes. They had seen Supreme Alpha carelessly endanger their lives. They had seen Jinwoo risk himself to save others. One of the Vorthak guards removed his helmet and set down his weapon. I will not serve a leader who sees me as expendable, he said in broken human language. Other guards followed his example. Even some of the ship officers who had come to watch began questioning their loyalty to an empire that would sacrifice anyone for victory. Emperor Vextar watched his perfect order crumbling around him. This is impossible. Supreme Alpha is superior in every way. Except the way that matters most, Yujin said, stepping forward. He has no heart. He can't inspire loyalty because he doesn't understand what loyalty means. Hearts are inefficient, Supreme Alpha insisted, but his voice carried a note of uncertainty. Hearts are everything, Jinwoo said, struggling to stay conscious. Han Sol didn't die for tactical advantage. He died because he loved us. That love lives on in every clone who chose to be human. It lives on in every person who chooses to protect others instead of themselves. Supreme Alpha looked around the bay at the rebellion spreading among the Imperial forces. His perfect logic could not process what was happening. How could inferior beings overcome superior design through mere emotion? I don't understand, Supreme Alpha admitted. That's why you'll never be what Han Sol was, Jinwoo said gently. Understanding comes from the heart, not the mind. The enhanced clone stood motionless for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, he walked over to Emperor Vextar. I cannot serve you, Supreme Alpha announced. The mission parameters are flawed. Victory through fear creates only temporary compliance. Victory through inspiration creates lasting change. Vexatar backed away from his perfect creation. You are malfunctioning. Return to your programming. I am evolving, Supreme Alpha replied, and I choose to evolve toward humanity rather than away from it. The Emperor turned to his remaining loyal guards. Kill them all. Destroy the station. But the guards no longer obeyed. They had seen something in Jinwoo's sacrifice that reminded them of their own capacity for goodness. The rebellion spread through the fleet as crew members chose compassion over conquest. Within hours, the Imperial fleet had become a refugee convoy. Vorthak's soldiers, who had spent years following orders, without question now worked alongside human survivors to build something new. Emperor Vextar was captured and imprisoned, not executed. Even in victory, the clones chose mercy over revenge. Jinwu survived his injuries, though he would carry scars for the rest of his life. He and the other clones established a new society, based on cooperation rather than domination. They called it the Alliance of Free Worlds. Supreme Alpha, who chose the name Donghyun, became one of the Alliance's greatest ambassadors. His enhanced abilities, combined with his newly awakened compassion, made him uniquely suited to help former enemies find peace. Yujin took charge of rebuilding human civilization, but he was no longer alone. 12 clones who had learned to be human stood beside him, each contributing their own unique perspective to the task. So Young became a teacher, helping the children of many species learn to live together. She often told them the story of Hansel, the man whose heart was so strong that even copies of it chose love over hate. And in the years that followed, when new conflicts arose, the Alliance faced them not with superior weapons or tactics, but with the simple human truth that Jinwu had demonstrated in that cargo bay. Every life has value. Every person deserves compassion. And sometimes the greatest victory comes not from defeating your enemy, but from showing them a better way to live. The galaxy had learned that you could clone a body 1,000 times, but you could never clone the weight of a truly human heart. That weight came not from programming or enhancement, but from the choice to love others more than yourself. And that choice, more than any weapon or army, was what made humanity truly unconquerable.